Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. We welcome you all to the second session of the month, Foundations of Dharma and Goal of Life. We'll start with the Prarthana. We want you also to learn and repeat after Lalit. So let's learn the shlokas of the Prarthana shlokas. Thank you. Over to you, Lalit.
Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Mahaganathipataye Namaha.
Let's start with the Prarthana. Thank you.
Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Mahaganathipataye Namaha. Sharada Sharadam Bhojavadana Vadanambuje Sarvada Sarvadasmakam Sannidhim Kriyat Shruti Smriti Purananam Alayam Karunalayam Namami Bhagavatpada Shankaram Lokashankaram Bharati Karunapatram Bharati Padabhushanam Bharati Padamarudham Bharati Tirthamashraye Vidya Vinaya Sampannam Vitaragam Vivekinam Vande Vedanta Tattvajñam Vidhushekhara Bharatim.
Thank you. So we started with the definition of Dharma and practice of Dharma in fulfillment of our desires is applicable to universally to all of us, wherever we are, and it always returns the right results of happiness and social equilibrium. In order to recap the last session, let's welcome Sri Krishna Priya. Krishna Priya, could you please recap the last session for us? Thank you.
Sure. Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. So we spoke about what is Dharma, definition of Dharma, and the eightfold of Dharma. So to give a very quick recap, I will start with what is Dharma as shown on the slide. Dharma is the foundation of this entire cosmos. So Lalitji, he spoke about two important qualities of Dharma, how Dharma keeps the world running, and a little opposite, I wouldn't say opposite, like oxymoronically, Dharma also has to be upheld by the right way, by the world. So what does that mean? Like when people are following Dharma, being righteous and doing the right things and doing things that are assigned to them, that is when Dharma is upheld in the world. And they're both interdependent on each other. So as you can see on the slide, people seek out the person who is well versed in Dharma. Sins can be avoided by adhering to Dharma, and everything is established in Dharma. So Dharma is the supreme. Like everybody needs to follow Dharma. Like basically, we all don't live. We all live a laukika world, in a very laukika world. So we have other things to do. Like for example, I have different dharmas as a mother, I work. So at work, at home. So I think it is very important to find an equilibrium between all of these dharmas as a person and do the right things, go in the right path. Can we move on to the next slide, please? So we spoke about Lalitji spoke about the eight dharmas. Sacrificial offerings, study, the eight of them being sacrificial offerings, study, charity, austerity, honesty, forbearance, forgiveness, and lack of greed. So I will not go too much into detail into each of these because Lalit has already done it last in the last session. But sacrificial offerings, all the sacrificial offerings would come as paropakara. Study is about the study, like as pretty much what the name suggests. Studies study different the right scriptures, right, be in the right path. Charity is probably the biggest dharma being followed in the world right now. uh, Pretty much as the name suggests, try to be as helping as doing enough paropakara in our life. Austerity is to keep the shichi, keep the uh, piousness or purity in both in mind, body. Honesty, again, keep your mind, body clear of anything, any bad things, any evil things. Forbearance, yes. So for forbearance, have the patience or ability to hold things or bear things when like for example, like dharma, following dharma at all points is not an easy thing, like but being able to stand and have the strength to follow the dharmic path is important. And then forgiveness, it's again for forgiveness is for your own good. You keep holding grudge or anger or any kind of tamogunas in you, that is not helping us, that is just only pulling us down. So follow kshama or forgiveness, and lack of greed, alobha. Lack of greed is when you do not have materialistic desires. So having desire, like as we discussed last week, or as our elders say, there are four steps that ultimately lead to moksha, right? Dharma, artha, kama. So they do mention kama here, but karma or desire for the right things is what one is supposed to have, and that is what this signifies, the alobha or lack of greed signifies. Lalitji, or please feel free to add something I might have missed, but this is, I believe, like a very quick and uh, a bird eye overview of what we discussed last week.
Thanks a lot, Krishna Priya. That was a very good sum up, and you've understood very well. So I just want to sort of touch upon that sins can be avoided by adherent to dharma. So you may ask as to how do you know that sins are being incurred by me, or while doing this in fulfillment of desires. So when you incur dukkham or unhappiness, it means that you have incurred sins. You have incurred sins because you are not adhered to the right action given in the dharma. That's what it means. Sins can be avoided by adhering to dharma. That's why we say adhering to dharma. So my action or inaction adhering to dharma has resulted in unhappiness or dukkham. Let's use the word dukkham and sukham from now on, rather than saying happiness and misery. So these are the right words. Let's learn other these padams also as we learn about dharma. Thank you so much.
One more thing to add that was very nice, what Krishna Akka said was, Dharma is the foundation of Artha and Kama, right? So Akka said that these two are both held in check by Dharma, which is why we have in Gita, Bhagavan says, Dharma viruddho bhuteshu kamosmi, he says. He says, desire is not something that is wrong or to be frowned upon. In fact, desire that is not contrary to Dharma, that is to say a dharmic desire, is in fact said to be a manifestation of Bhagavan himself, because it is protecting the world, it is running the world in the right way. It keeps us all honest. So as Akka said, having desire for the right thing, having desire for righteous things, having desire for things that are dharmic is something that is in fact very important and part of our duties as well. Right? So artha and kama are both not contradictory to dharma, which is why dharma being followed gives us all three of these. Yeah.
Thank you. Sharda, do you have any question from the previous session or until now what you have heard?
Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. From the recap of the session, last session, and the discussions that happened over the last session, I had one question. As Krishnaka mentioned, we do live in a Laukika world. We have a personal life, we have a professional life. So we do encounter various types of people, and some of them are not, people who do not believe that they need to follow the path of Dharma, and that could have an impact on us directly or indirectly. So how do we ensure that we do not get dissuaded to towards their path, or how do we ensure that how do we sort of insulate ourselves from being affected by that, or being thinking that maybe that's the thing we should also be doing because it's the easier solution?
Very good question. Lalit, please answer her.
Okay, so I think as a student in the US in a university that has, I don't know, a good 50,000 people coming from 50,000 different backgrounds, I think I have some qualification to answer that. It is very simple if you consider, the simple fact that our tradition, our heritage, our customs are ours to uphold. Right? Everyone has things that are important to them. There is nothing wrong. I think very recently the Sringeri channel has posted. It's been, the Sringeri channel has been posting clippings of Mahasannidhanam Varu's Anugraha Bhashanas. There was one, I think the last one in Telugu, or the one before that was actually a clip of exactly this, where Acharya says, Mahasannidhanam Varu says that everyone has different customs, everyone prioritizes different things. It is not our place to criticize, change, critique them, or judge them. However, at the same time, that does not mean that this is an excuse for us to forego our duties and our customs. Our customs are as important to us as their customs are important to them. This is the crux of Sanatana Dharma. Everyone's duty is as important to them as the next man's. Right? So, a mother's duty is just as important to a mother as a father's duty is important to a father. A student's duty is just as important to a student as a teacher's duty is important to a teacher. So in the same way, if we count ourselves, followers of Sanatana Dharma, if we count ourselves Hindus, it is very simple that if we wish to subscribe to that identity, we must follow, the guidelines and pathways that set forth by Hinduism and Sanatana Dharma. So for me, at least, as a college student, even though I'm different, I just say this is why I am different. Right? This is why I am who I am. Right? What differentiates me from the next person is the fact that I choose to follow this dharma. What differentiates me from another student is the fact that I have my own moral compass, and this moral compass is set not by my whims and fancies, but by our Acharya Purushas and by our Shastras. Right? So it is it is us having to remember that this lifestyle was given to us by several great souls who have understood the ins and outs of both this life and also as well as a higher goal of life. And also from a more worldly standpoint, very simply that this is our heritage. This is what makes us different from other people, right? So just as, nationality is brought in, right? Like what makes an Indian different from a Chinese, from a Mexican, from a Japanese, every country has their own heritage. Within India, what makes a Telugu person different from a Tamil person, from a Hindi person? It's because each language has its own, its own personality. In the same way, if we wish to uphold our identity as a dharmic Hindu, then, obviously you must force yourself to follow that. The other thing is, regardless of however many reasons we may give, at the end of the day, it is us that has to substantiate to ourselves, right? So obviously a guru can tell us what to do, a shastra can show us a path, but at the end of the day, it is us that needs to have the connection, the conviction, in order to hold ourselves to that, hold ourselves to a guru's teaching, or hold ourselves to, a shastra's dictum, and lead our life accordingly. So at the end of the day, the onus is placed on us, but it is much easier if we understand why we have that onus placed on us.
Just to
Thank
add
you.
to what Lalit just
Hope you're
mentioned,
convinced and
Yeah, so just to add a little bit
Please
to what
go.
Lalit mentioned, in Bhagavad Gita, Sri Krishna Paramatma says, Swadharme nidhanam shreyaha paradharmo bhayavaha. So we all know growing up, or most of us, we know growing up what our dharma is. We've been taught by our elders or by reading books or with the help of a guru. We understand what our dharma is. And if you truly, like very truly from your heart, understand what this line from Gita says, you wouldn't even have that distraction. You know what you're doing, you know what you're doing is the right thing, is the ultimate thing, and you wouldn't have those distractions or things that can lead you out of your path.
Thank you. Thank you. So it's
Thank
all
you.
about acquiring the right knowledge about Dharma and Dharma. So that's why, we always have this adage, like practice makes a perfect person, right? We also use be religious. So there also we know that religion gives us the discipline and the structure in our life. So that's why we use the phrase, religiously we practice, good or bad, we always use this term. From that we have understood that religion gives us that structure. So practicing Dharma again and again, not just once. Yeah, as long as we are on this earth, we have to practice Dharma. And all our pursuits are towards acquiring happiness and removal of sorrow or dukkham. So now we have to bring our to tell us about the nature of human life and why sorrow and what causes this sorrow. Our young scholar, please help us understand this.
Sure,
Thank you.
definitely. So, just to kind of, once again, a quick, backtrack to come forward again. This session is titled "What is the goal of human life?" Right, and we said at the end of the last session that it is dharma as far as the world is concerned, but in the supreme sense, in the highest sense, it is moksha, right, release from samsara. So, as Sharda ji led into the question, right? So, why is it that moksha is the goal, right? Why is it that moksha gives us the release from sorrow, right? So, the fact remains that we are all bound in samsara, which is why Bhagavad Pada says in Prashnottara Ratnamalika, he says, Acharya asked the question first, Tvaritam king kartavyam vidusham. Right? What is the number one priority of a wise man? What do wise men have? What do wise men see as their immediate goal? And the answer is samsara santati chedaha, the uprooting of samsara. Right? They need to free themselves of samsara. This is what a wise man sees as his foremost goal, or his immediate priority in human life. And then what is samsara? Again, I won't go into too much detail, but in Gita, in Kshetra Kshetrajna Vibhaga Yoga, writing the Bhashyam there, Bhagavad Pada writes, Kaf punarayam samsaro nama. So what is this samsara? And then Bhagavad Pada says, Sukha dukkha sambhogaha. So Sukha dukkha sambhogaha samsaraha. The experience of sukha and dukkha intermittently over time is called samsara. Right? So as long as we are jivas, as long as we are bound to the body-mind complex, we take birth again and again, and we are forced to suffer through or undergo, happiness and pleasure, sukha and dukkha intermittently. Most of our sorrows come from the fact that our happiness is ending and sorrow exists. Notice that we don't really view the world as happiness interspersed with sorrow here and there. Most of us think of it as any happiness that we have is meant to end, and sorrow is what keeps coming back to us, right? So it is partially a worldview, but at the end of the day, what we seek is sukha that is atyantika, right? We call it atyantika in Shastra. Sukha that is absolute. Sukha that does not end. Sukha that we do not have to worry about ending or running dry or being perturbed from. That is the kind of pleasure that we seek. That is a happiness that each individual seeks. Right? So when we now have to go from this desire all the way up to moksha, that is the sequence we need to go to, right? So if we wish to get rid of sorrow, why is it that moksha is the ultimate goal? We are Advaitins, but here the Sankhya Karikas give a very nice sequence of thoughts to follow. So as far as Advaita allows, we'll follow it up to there. So Sankhya Karika Vishwara Krishna start off with Dukkhatrayabhighatat Jignasa Tadabhighatake Heto. So quickly to summarize this, basically, we are struck by Dukkhatraya. Right? Every human undergoes three types of dukkhas: Adhyatmika, Adhibhautika, and Adhidaivika. So what are these three types of sorrows that we all face? Every sorrow that we undergo will fall into one of these three buckets. So Adhyatmika, this is twofold: internal and external, right? So body, we have internal organs of the body and we have a gross body. Any sorrow that comes to the heart, right, that occurs within the heart, such as the sorrow of separation from loved ones, the sorrow that comes from not attaining something that we wanted, that is an internal affliction. And then of course any illness that plagues the body, fever, cold, disease, I don't know, COVID-19, whatever you want to call it, that is all adhyatmika, right? Atma being the body, right? Anything that affects the individual's body or mind. Then the next sequence we have is adhibhautika. So not all our problems originate from us. Sometimes it is other people that causes problems. So when the problem is caused by another living being outside ourselves, that can be animals or other humans or insects or snakes or birds or whatnot, that is called adhibhautika. The third one is called adhidaivika. So there are some things that are not exactly human and caused by other beings, and some things that are not caused by ourselves, right? A typhoon occurs, a hurricane occurs, a tornado comes. That is not my fault, your fault, or some animal's fault. Those are things that fate wills, right? Those are things that just nature brings upon us. Those things also, of course, if it is the middle of May in India and you have to be walking in Tirupati with your feet off, that is hard for any person because your feet will be burning, right? So there's some things that we cannot control. There are things that nature puts in front of us that we just need to simply accept, but that we still suffer from. So that is adhidaivika. So any sorrow that we suffer from falls into one of these three. So because we have these kinds of afflictions, we immediately, every human has a desire. Jignasa tad abhighatake heto. Every human wishes to know what the cause of their uprootment can be, right? So what is the means by which I can get rid of these sorrows, right? And that desire to know is usually expressed in many ways. Some people, they will try to gain more money so that they can acquire the means to a more more luxurious life. Some people will seek a religious remedy, right? They will do pujas or homas or some metta or the other, so that daiva will favor them, and then that will remove whatever affliction that they have. Some people, if they're suffering with illness, they will go to a doctor so that the doctor can prescribe a medicine, right? So all of these different remedies exist for all the types of sorrow that we talked about, right? You can go to a doctor, you can get more money to get more luxuries, you can go do pujas and do homas and yajnas so that you will get whatever you want. There are many forms of getting rid of these dukkhas, but what Shastra calls, these are all drishta upayas. Drishte sa apartha. So these all of these are more or less physical things that we are doing. The problem is, in this case, that is apartha. Those are futile, right? The desire to know the cause of the desire to know the means of the removal of sorrow is futile if you seek the removal of sorrow in physical things. The reason being because atyantika abhavat, right? They are not absolute. You go to the doctor today, he will give you a medicine for today. 6 months down the road, another illness pops up. What do you do then, right? So you are suffering from some disease, you do some yaga, you do some dhanvantari homa and navagraha homa, that goes away, right? And then 6 months down the road, you get something else. What do you do? Another homa? Or you find it hard to go to some place, so you buy a car, and then gas prices go up, petroleum prices go up, so you have to pay more for that. Each problem leads to another problem. Or another thing is, they also run out, right? So let us say you have some illness, the doctor gives you medicines for 6 months. What do you do in the 7th month, right? So the problem with all of these physical remedies is either A, they fall short of the intended goal, or B, they come with some side effect, or C, they only offer a temporary solution, not a permanent one, right? So ekanta atyantatah abhavat. And then there are some remedies that are not physical per se, but that are more spiritual. So drishtavad anushravikaha. Right? Some remedies we see given to us in Shastra that are spiritual. So like, as I said, doing yajnas or homas or karmas or pujas, these are also ways that we can try to seek removal of our sorrows. But the problem that Shastra says there is sahi avishuddhi kshaya atishaya yuktaha. So this kind of is more so clearly stating what I said earlier. The problem with that is there are three problems: avishuddhi, kshaya, atishaya. There are three problems with this. Avishuddhi means some things come with a side dish, a side effect of added papa. Right? So when, let's say, you try to earn more money, there is no guarantee that the money you are earning is coming from the right place. Right? So there is some doubt always in that. The example that the Karikas give here is even in yajnas there is pashimsa that is done. So along with the yajna, there is some small fraction of that himsa phala that you'll also be getting, which causes dukkha later. Right? So avishuddhi kshaya. And the other thing is, all of these punyas are anubhavakshina, they are called. Right? So once you experience the fruit of that punya, that is it. That punya is gone. That sukha is gone. Right? You have to then do some other punya karma in order to experience the fruit of that. Right? So kshaya. And then atishaya. In some cases, if it is a battle, right? I think Abhinavidya Tirtha Swami actually calls it like two rams fighting each other, right? How do you know which ram will win? The ram that hits the other one harder wins. So in that same way, you have a papa karma and you have some prayaschitta to overcome it. How do you know whether the papa karma will persist or the prayaschitta karma will overcome the papa? You do not know, because we do not know how strong the prarabdha that is coming behind us is. So in some cases, atishaya. In some cases, the papa karma is just too strong for us to overcome through whatever means we have chosen. So because all of these are problems, Shastra then says, Tad viparita shreyan. Therefore, the solution that we have to look for needs to be one that is absolutely contrary to all of these. So instead of it having avishuddhi, instead of it having impurities, it needs to have vishuddhi. It needs to be completely free of any defects. And then kshaya is the problem with the physical remedies. So we need a remedy that is akshaya, that does not run out, that is that is eternal, permanent, that does not run dry. And then atishaya, in some cases it can be overcome. Right? Our remedies can be overcome by the sheer strength of our afflictions or the sheer intensity of our afflictions. So we need a method that will not be overcome by whatever afflictions we have. And therefore, the Sankhya Shastra then says this is possible through jnana, specifically vyakta vyakta vijnana is what Sankhya says. So in the Sankhya philosophy, the removal of this is understood through a difference if we properly understand the difference between Prakriti, the rest of the world, and the Purusha, the Jiva, right? If you can understand, it is the Jiva that has Chaitanya, it is Prakriti that is the cause of the Gunas, it is the world that is born of Prakriti and has nothing to do with the Purusha. If the better we understand this, right, the better we will be removed from the dukkha. And this knowledge, right, is something that is pure. Right? Knowledge does not have any, ill side effects that comes with it. It is a purely 100% sattvic karma, right, or sattvic process. And then there is no kshaya, right? There is no question of knowledge ending at any point, right? In fact, there is a nice shloka that says, Vyaye krite vardhata eva nityam, right? The more you give, it keeps increasing. With any other wealth, the more you give away, the less you have. The thing with knowledge is the more you give, the more you end up having. Right? So whether that be any knowledge or even this Vedanta, even this philosophical knowledge, the same holds true. Right? The more you do, it will never go to waste. And also Bhagavan says in Gita, right? Nahi kalyana krit kaschit durgatim tata gacchati. And he also says, Shuchinam shrimatam gehe yoga bhrashto bhirayate. Bhagavan gives us several reassurances in Gita where he says, even if whatever sadhana you're doing, if it ends because you lose this body, if this body falls, it will pick up exactly where you left off in the next life. Right? So we can be assured that whatever sadhanas we do towards jnana do not have kshaya, in the sense that they are not lost over time just by virtue of them seeping away. Right? And then atishaya, there is no ignorance that persists past knowledge. This is another thing that is very important to note. Once someone knows that 2 times 2 is 4, right, there is nothing that will cause him to ever again say that 2 times 2 is 5, unless misunderstanding happens. But if he truly knows, that 2 times 2 is 4, he will never again go wrong in that, right? And the better example in Shastra is, for example, we have the common rope snake example, right? You see a rope and you think it is a snake. The second someone turns on the light and you see that it is a rope, there is no force, in this earth that can make you see that rope as a snake again. Right? So knowledge for us is absolute. Knowledge for us is eternal. The second you understand something properly, if you truly have understood properly, which means that there is no room for doubt anymore, then there is nothing that can change that knowledge. There is no way of losing that knowledge. Right? Once you know something, there is no going back. So Ashuddhi, Kshaya, and Atishaya, all three of these problems that we have with our usual remedies to sorrow are not found in the path of knowledge. So Sankhya has their knowledge, which they say, the difference between the Jagat, Prakriti, and Ishwar, and the Purusha, that is the Sankhyan definition. But for us as Vedantins, it is very simply the knowledge of Jiva Brahmaikya. That is the example, that is the Siddhanta that our Shastras give us. The firm understanding that this Jiva, this individual, is none other than Brahman. That this Jiva is unbounded, unlimited by the body and mind. This Jiva's true nature is consciousness, bliss, existence. That the true nature of this Jiva is the consciousness that transcends the 3 times. This true nature of the Jiva is the consciousness that enlivens the body and the mind, allows them to function. I am not the body, I am not the mind. This proper knowledge, this firm knowledge, that is the essence of all the Upanishads and all our Shastras, that knowledge is the means that gets rid of all the sorrows that we face, because it does not have the defects that our other remedies have. Right? Which is why Bhagavad-pada states, Jnana devatu kaivalyam. Bhagavad-pada and our Shastras also say that knowledge is the only way that we can properly attain moksha, which is the state that is free of all sorrows and tapatrayas and the dukkhas that we talked about earlier. So as per our Shastras, this is the beautiful sequence of reasoning. See, Shastra never strays. This is the part that I really like. Shastra never strays from the realities of the world. Right? When they talk about the immediate thing that we all turn towards, they were, in my opinion, as I have put in front of you, Shastra is spot on when it talks about the immediate reaction that humans have to sorrow. Right? If you're not feeling well, our immediate thought is not, I have a fever, therefore I must get moksha, so I will never get a fever again. Our immediate thought is, I'll take 2 tablets, drink a glass of water, and sleep for the rest of the day. Right? Our immediate efforts are set towards temporary solutions that do not guarantee that the problem will never return again. However, that is why, if coming back to what Bhagavad-pada said, right? So therefore, what is the kartavya? What is the duty of someone who is wise? Samsara santati chedaha. Get rid of the root of the tree. Why do you try to pluck off each leaf and each flower? If you do not want dukkha to come, get rid of the root of dukkha. Do not try to get rid of the expression of sorrow. Right? Do not try to get rid of the instances of sorrow. Instead, get rid of the root of sorrow, which is samsara, and that is gotten rid of through moksha. Right? So that is the sequence that our Shastras put in front of us. So through the Sankhya Karikas, which I think do a pretty good job of explaining that, and also through the Bodhas of Bhagavad-pada, that is the line that our Shastras have drawn from. If you wish to not have sorrow, then knowledge, and through knowledge moksha, should be the goal of this human life that we all should strive to attain.
Thanks so much, Lalit. So he's a young scholar, instead of maybe just giving you or preaching you, but our young scholar here is a practitioner also. So that's why, he has got this deeper understanding, and he tries to tell us, reinforce the importance of practice of Dharma by acquiring the right knowledge. So what he was trying to say is the importance of knowledge here. The importance of knowledge here is about what is samsara and how to get rid of it. What is samsara? He said it is sukha and dukkha, coming one after the other. And he laid out the reasons why, the 3 reasons, adhyatmika, adi bhautika, and adi daivika. These are the 3 things. And each of these 3 things, we will give examples and we will learn more and more about it in the following sessions. Okay. So we had a deep session, and so you may find it a little heavy, But all these things are interconnected, and in the following sessions, you yourself will understand why Lalitji said this or said that. So we will reinforce that. So again, think that in our Sanatana Dharma, and we will be saying in each of the sessions as to why all these are Sanatana. It comes from this the God Himself, and it is as old as the creation itself. And practicing of Dharma by acquiring the right knowledge and practicing again and again is the only solution here. And any questions,
I would like to
Sharda?
add. I would like to add one more note there. So because you brought up the Sanatana Dharma,
Hmm.
so to the modern mind, right? We generally rebel against taking something as scripture, right? We generally try to rebel against, this is dogma and you must follow it, or this is a dictum and you have to subscribe to it. And I think the nice thing about Sanatana Dharma is Sanatana Dharma is not called Daiva Sampradaya, Sanatana Dharma is not called Bhagavad Sampradaya, but it is called Arsha Samskriti and Arsha Sampradaya. The word Arsha means that which comes from rishis, right? So what are rishis? Rishis are wise men, realized souls, people. And these are not people who are making a living off of dharma. These are not people who are making a living off of their teachings, right? These are people who are quite literally living in the forests, doing their own penance, and they only came out of that to give us these teachings because they felt that we needed them. you know Valmiki Maharshi did not get a single penny out of writing Ramayana. Manu did not get anything from writing Dharma Shastra. Bhagavad Pada did not earn anything off of writing all of these granthas for us, right? So the beauty of Sanatana Dharma is that its importance, or not even its importance, its validity, right? The weight of its convictions rests not on some unseen, unknown God, but rather lives and holds itself to the very real experiences of wise men, right? It is the rishis we place our trust in even more so than in God. It is the rishis' words that we hear even more than we listen to Bhagavan's words. It is the rishis who have shown us this way of life even more so than Bhagavan. Right? Their knowledge, their tapas is what we are holding ourselves to. So this is not some, God sent windfall, get rich quick scheme. This is something that wise men who have nothing to gain from this otherwise have practiced, have tested, and have given us, knowing that this is a proper path that will bring us welfare. So keeping that trust in our rishis, in our acharyas, is paramount if we wish to walk this path with conviction. Right? So it is the point I'm trying to make is that rishis are very important when we look to what makes this tradition valid, what gives this tradition weight. It is not the word of God, it is the word of a rishi, the word of a
Rishis.
learned, virtuous, pious soul that we value even over God's word. Right? So that is one thing that
Thank
I
you
wish
so
to
much.
mention.
Thanks for
Can,
correcting me. Yes, it's Asha Vidya. And Asha Vidya is given to the humanity, to all the human beings. It's not just to Indians. And we don't want to use the word Hinduism. Ism is of sort of given by people or minds of different people or opinions of people, but it is given by the rishis themselves to the human beings, to humanity. So please evaluate all the time whether it is applicable to everybody, universal application. So it has the sort of firm and sort of right disposition. All those things we spoke about in the first one, you can evaluate for yourself. You can have an index card. What we have said, is this applicable? Is it going to give the right results? But understanding the right knowledge from the right people is the crux. Thank you so much. You were going to say something? Krishna Priya or Sharda, do you have anything to say, or shall we wrap up this session?
I just had one comment as I was listening through this, and I think what Lalitji said really resonates with me because as the world evolves, the kind of problems we face are new, sometimes never seen before, like how we saw during COVID. Or as we age in life, there are different kinds of problems that we face, the magnitude of it is different. So, to have that underlying principle that we need to just follow the path of knowledge and not look at each individual problem and solution for that problem as a temporary solution, I think that will sort of help us to ground us and look at a larger perspective. So, that was really helpful. So, I just wanted to mention that.
Thank you. Krishna Priya? Are you happy with the session today, Krishna Priya? I think she's not able to hear me. Let's wrap up this session. Thank you so much, all of you. Thanks, Lalit, for your time, and Bharat for recording. Bharat Rajaram is from our admin group, Shringeri Guru Bandhava, and part of the technical support as well. We thank him as well. Thank you. We'll see you
Thank
again in the month of December. We will have it fairly quickly and let you enjoy your